Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Yesterday I spent the whole day at Chris Hendry's, the Bonsai Guy. He had an open house and all the members of the London Middlesex Bonsai Society were there. A lot of the people I met at the London show, and it was nice to see them once again. We looked at all his trees. He has thousands of trees. His pots, his stands, tools, soil. He's got everything. So we looked through all that stuff and I did make some purchases. I'll show you what I got. Down here you will see I got 3 bonsai stands. So these are little miniature stands. It looks like they're made of rosewood. Really nice. So that can be added to my miniature bonsai displays. I restrained myself yesterday. I didn't buy any more trees, but I did buy 2 pots. And they're not small pots. I'll show you what they look like. I bought 2 identical pots, large landscape pots, rectangular. They're big pots. So I'm going to put the large forest in one of these. I wanted to rearrange it a bit, moving the landscape over to the right hand side and adding another tree to the left hand side in the large forest. And I think this pot will give me kind of lots of room to do that. I think it'll also help. The large forest is sort of a land almost water pension and has that waterfall in the middle and a bit of water out front. So I think this rectangular pot will give me more of that feeling of kind of an island in the water. So I'm excited to do that. I think I'll wait until spring of next year before I do the large forest in this pot, before I rearrange it all and repot it. I could slip pot it into this pot, but I just think I better wait until spring because I'll probably be doing a bit of root pruning to the larches. Good morning, rooster. Here is a look at the larch forest just sitting in the new pot. So you can see, it's quite a bit bigger. If I shift this pot all the way over here, you can see I've got quite a bit of room on this side to add another tree. And it's quite a bit wider. The original mica pot the large forest in is quite narrow. It's more of a Chinese style pot that's long and narrow. And this one's a bit wider. So it's possible, I could even add some more trees in the background of the forest. Some younger trees, smaller ones, to get a little more variety in size and give the planting a little more depth. In my second pot, I'm going to be planting either my first bonsai ever, my ficus that I grew from a seed that I'm working on the aerial roots. I think the pot's a little big for that tree at the moment, but maybe someday. Or a more likely candidate is my Schefflera forest here. It's planted in a plastic fuku bonsai pot at the moment. Quite a large one because I do want to grow this forest a little larger. So I think, the new pot is almost the same size as these plastic fuku pots. So yeah, I think, I'll train this tree in this pot for at least this year. And then again, maybe next year it'll get planted into the ceramic pot. And again, that will be its final pot because I don't think I could ever find a larger pot. I think this is, it's basically the largest pot I've ever seen. So how much does a pot like that cost? Well, Chris gave me a really good price. I was just going to buy one. I asked him how much they are and he said it was $150. And I thought, wow, that's a good price for a pot this size. $150. So I got 2 of them. He only had 2 of them and I bought both of them because I know I'll use them in the future. Yesterday morning I woke up early to drive to Chris Hendry's and it was still quite warm and humid in the morning. And then gradually as the day went on, it got cooler and cooler. and this fantastic wind blew in, and now the heat wave is over. Last night we went down to 14 degrees Celsius, which is maybe, I'm guessing, around 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So it was a nice night. It was the first time I've been cool in about a week. So it was nice sleeping at night. And it's beautiful out this morning. It's nice and cool. And yeah, I don't think my ficus will like the change in the weather. They love that heat and humidity. But I'm glad to get a bit of a break. It's feels very refreshing outside. It is also possible that my Tomb Raider temple here, the Toprom temple, could go in one of those larger pots, but I don't know if I need it. If I put it in a larger pot, I'd have to, I think, make more of the temple, and that would just make it heavier and heavier. So I think for now I'm going to keep it in this pot. I think the pot suits it quite nicely. It's a good size for the temple. But there is that possibility, you know, if I expand the planting, I could put it in the larger pot. My first task for today is to water all the trees. I was away yesterday. Luckily it was kind of a cloudy, cool, almost rainy, drizzly day, so the trees aren't too bad. But with the change in humidity, we've got full sun today, and the air is quite dry, so they'll need, you know, some pretty careful watering today. I'll water them really thoroughly now, and then I'll check on them later on in the afternoon, and then again at nighttime. It takes me about 2 hours to thoroughly water everything. Like, you know, you water the trees once, so let that water soak in, water them again, let that soak in, and then a third time. So it takes quite a while to water all the trees. And I'm adding fertilizer to the water, so that takes a bit of time to mix that up too. Just a small amount of fertilizer. I've been watering my baobab trees quite a bit lately. And how I tell is these leaves, when it needs water, they start to droop down. You can see right now they're perked up. So I watered them thoroughly last night, watered and fertilized them. And this morning I had to do it again. I had to drench the soil with water and fertilizer. It's got a lot of leaves on it now, so it's using a lot of water, and it's growing with a ton of vigor. So yeah, I've really got to watch, you know, all my succulents in the summer. They really start to grow, and the watering can go up quite high with them. Like these Portulacaria, I'm watering them at least once a day now, thoroughly soaking the soil, and by the end of the day they're dry again. So they're using a lot of water. So it's something to keep in mind, you know, just watch all the watering requirements of your trees over the summer, because it certainly changes as they leaf out and start to grow. My Sarissa tree here, it's got, you know, a pretty big canopy on it, and I have to water it at least twice a day. And you can see it's really starting to grow now. It's even getting some fairly large leaves. It was getting a few flowers on it, and I've been picking the flowers off. I noticed last year when it was covered in flowers that the growing tips just stopped. All the energy went into flowers and creating seeds. So I've been picking all the flowers off now. I just want to, you know, get all the energy into growing the branches in the tree. The other two trees I really have to watch the watering on is my American elm and my European buckthorn here. I repotted them in spring, and they must have grown quite a root system, because I have to water this American elm at least 4 times a day when it's sunny. In the morning, kind of noontime, mid-afternoon, and then at nighttime again. It just uses the water like crazy. And it's not like it's growing, like it's getting some good shoots growing on it, but it's not like in the ground where the shoots will grow as tall as me in a month. In the pot, the growth certainly slows down, but boy, they use the water though. So if you have, well, any elms, you'll notice they use water quite quickly. I've said it before, but I really enjoy watering the trees as long as you have lots of time, like I have this morning. You can water and fertilize them all thoroughly, and it's like getting a bench tour of all the trees. You can check them over and make sure they're healthy, they have no insects, water them really well, and your reward is you get really strong, healthy trees. I hear a lot of people say, you know, I just water my trees once a day and that's it. And that might be convenient for you, but it may not be what's best for the tree. I always try and keep the trees in mind. In bonsai, you're not just growing a tree. You've got to grow them super healthy and strong, because you're pruning them all the time and working on them, that they can't just be surviving. They've got to be super vigorous to take all the pruning and whatever you do to your trees. So yeah, I'm retired, so I can be at home here and water the trees when they need it. But I think, you know, even when I was working, I would water them in the morning before I left to work. When I got home from work, I'd water them, and then later in the evening, I'd water them again. So, you know, other than not being able to water them at noontime or lunchtime, they did pretty well with that watering schedule. But I certainly wouldn't water them once a day, because, you know, some trees, like I said, the elms and that, they use a lot of water, and the tree might survive, but, you know, bonsai is not just about having the tree survive, it's about having it thrive. I guess what I'm trying to say is that watering isn't just watering your trees. It's inspecting your trees. You can tell if the roots are taking up water. You can look at the leaves to see if they're, you know, not green, they're yellowish. You might have to add more fertilizer. You can check the growth rate on the trees. If they're slowing down, well, there's always a reason. Maybe they're not getting enough sun. And, you know, so that's what, you know, they say watering is one of the hardest things to learn in bonsai. And it's not just about the water. It's about reading your trees, evaluating them, checking them for health. And, you know, it would be easy for me just to hook up the garden hose and water everything. I'd be done in 15 minutes. But that's not the best thing for the trees. Individually watering them, you're inspecting every tree, you're giving it what it needs. Some trees need more water than others. So, you know, some trees you might skip the watering or water them less, and some trees you might have to really drench them. If the tree is using too much water, you might have to move it to a shadier spot. If a tree's, you know, staying wet all the time, you might have to move it to a sunnier spot. So you can read the leaves, if they're getting too much sun, too little sun, how they're growing. So, you know, they say watering's the hardest thing to learn in bonsai, and, you know, it's not just the watering. It's reading the trees, seeing what they need. If they're getting too much of something, too little of something, and that's the secret of watering. Speaking of making things easier, sometimes in life, that's not the goal in life, is to make, you know, everything easy and convenient for you. I think to create something exceptional, it takes effort and determination and hard work. And bonsai is the same. Yeah, the more effort and care you put into your trees, the bigger the reward will be in the end, that you'll get this magnificent tree. Life isn't always about making everything easy. In the garage here, there is a stray cat. It was pregnant, and it has had its kittens in the garage. And if you look down, hi kitty. If you look down there, you can see the kitties. Hi. And the mama. I don't know what we're going to do with them. I don't know why all the stray pregnant cats in the neighborhood come over to our property to have their kittens, but it seems to be a trend. I'm going to finish off today's video with a book review. Blue Jay Bonsai lent me this book, and it's a really, really good book. It's one of the one of the best books I've seen. Has beautiful pictures in it, beautiful illustrations, and it explains all the different bonsai styles. Now there is a section on African trees, styling African trees, and it gets into specific species, and I kind of wish the rest of the book was about specific species like maple tree style and spruce styling and ficus styling and apple tree styling, you know, species specific, because every tree in nature grows in a certain way. They have certain characteristics and looks to them if they're growing like in an open field. They can change the style of the tree depending on the environment and the growing conditions, but a healthy tree growing by itself in a sunny spot, they tend to all kind of grow in a similar form. And I think it's important in bonsai to know what the basic form of the tree looks like, and then you can modify it from there. And it does a really good job of explaining that with the African species. I'll show you a few photos from the book. Here's a section on African styles, and they have baobab style, Pyrenees style, which is like the flat top acacias, and then you go into a flat stomp style, a bushveld or natural style, a wild fig style, and an elbow or wonderboom style. So here's some photos of baobabs, and then they have detailed illustrations showing all the various different forms of baobab trees in nature and variations on the basic kind of form of a baobab tree. And there's lots of pictures here. So it's really fascinating. Then it goes into the Pyrenees style, which is the sort of umbrella shaped flat top trees, and it shows a lot of different features, a lot of variations of that style, how to develop that style. Yeah, it's fascinating. Then they get into the absolute flat top style. It shows the branch structure and everything, variations of it. Then they go into the natural style of African trees, and there's a whole bunch of examples. Here's the wild fig style on a really nice, I can't get it without the shadow of the camera there, but a really nice style, and it's kind of similar to the style of my ficus fancy here. Someday my ficus fancy will probably look like this, and it was kind of nice to see this photograph because it's kind of inspirational that, you know, maybe someday mine will look as good as this, I hope. Yeah, and then it goes into elbow or wonderboom style. Shows some examples. And that's it for the African trees. And the rest of the book is kind of really good, but it's more, you know, twin trunk style, literati, windswept, all your traditional bonsai styles, but it's not. See, there's weeping willow style here, pine tree style, but it's not kind of broom style, but it's not really species specific. Like, it doesn't show you a silver maple in nature and show you what the natural form is, or, you know, there's lots of trees out there that have a very specific look. So maybe someday, you know, I've always wanted to write a bonsai book, and I've been thinking, you know, well, there's lots of books on, you know, how to grow bonsai and style them and wire them and prune them, and I've been kind of looking for something that inspires me to write a book, and this kind of inspires me. That section on the African style, I could see me making a reference book with photographs and illustrations, species specific, so, you know, showing all the different kinds of trees in the world. I know there's like a million different trees, but, you know, something like this Brazilian rain tree, show examples of them growing in nature and, you know, their natural style, and a lot of trees like that, you know, yucca trees and kapok trees, weeping figs, everything. And not just tropicals, but, you know, all the examples. My small leaf linden, they have a very specific form in nature. My sugar maples, my elms, yeah, they all have kind of a natural form in nature, and it would be really nice to have a reference book that shows trees, examples of trees in nature, their natural forms, and then it would inspire you to grow your bonsai to have some similarity to the natural form, if that's what you're into, which is what I like to see in a bonsai. I like to see it close to the natural form of the tree, or have the natural characteristics of that tree in the form. So yeah, so maybe someday I'll put together a reference book showing examples of specific trees and all their natural forms to kind of help people decide on a style for their tree. So the Practical Guide to Bonsai Styles of the World is written by Charles Serranio, and I'm just trying to see who published it. Brisa Publishers. It was, first edition was published in 2015. So I imagine it's still in print. I'm just trying to see who the illustrations were done by, if it was the author. Cover design, production. It might tell me. I haven't read the book yet. He's from Pretoria, South Africa, Charles. Hence, you know, the African section in the book. And there's, you know, quite a few African trees in this book. Yeah, it doesn't tell me who the illustrations are done by. Maybe it does on the back cover. So Charles, he studied the art of bonsai under the guidance of John Naka, and is a co-founder of the Pretoria Bonsai Guy. He is the originator of 6 uniquely African bonsai designs and regularly conducts bonsai demonstrations and workshops in South Africa. Well, I don't know if that's the right wording, saying he's the originator, because nature is the originator. Yeah, I don't know who illustrated it. If it's by the author, he's an excellent artist. If it's by someone else, whoever you are, the artwork is just beautiful in this book. There are a lot of plants used in bonsai that don't really have a natural tree-like form, and you know, you could look through the reference book and find a form that kind of suits your tree. Maybe it has similar shaped leaves or similar trunk characteristics. So you could kind of look through the book and say, yeah, my ficus looks a lot like this style of tree, and that's how I'm going to style it. So yeah, it wouldn't be just useful for someone growing the natural form of their tree, but also for your, you know, determining a basic bonsai style. So that is all for today. I had lunch. I pruned some of the full-size trees around my bonsai bench to get a bit more sun in, and it's almost time to water all my trees again. So that's what I'll be doing this afternoon. And that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.